This is Colorpedia. This is an app for learning color theory terminology. Here, let me just make this full screen. All right, so to get started, we start here on the login page, Colorpedia, login or create an account to get started. And then we have two fields, an existing users field and a new users field. So enter your username or create a new username. So I'm going to be a new user for this demonstration. So I'm going to log in. I'll use my mom's dog's name, Goose. All right, so now we're logged in as Goose, which we can see up here. I have a logout button if I'd like to log out. And this is the home page of the app. So this is telling me, welcome to Colorpedia, a website to learn color theory terminology. Click the button or select a term below to get started. So looking below here, I've got a term. Under each term, a learn or a quiz section, and these little check marks, which we'll see what those do later, as well as a final quiz. But also just a button here to start learning. If I'm a new user and I just want to jump right in, I can click that, and it takes me here to this first learn page. So taking a look at this page, I've got Colorpedia here in the corner. This will take me to the home page, and then I have this sidebar. So this sidebar has each of the terms here, and when you open one, it will show you the learn and quiz links for each term, as well as the final quiz. It will default open to the term that you're currently on. And then also we have Goose up here to tell me that I'm logged in as Goose, and that if I want to log out, I can click on that and I have a log out button right there. So this sidebar is useful if you want to backtrack, if you want to jump around, but also very useful for just showing users their progress. So as you go on, you can see maybe if you're on tint, how many terms that you have left. All right, but turning our attention to the content of the page, I have a header right here to tell me which term I'm looking at, and learn tells me that I'm in the learn section of the page. And then I've got some information. So some information about Hugh and some examples. So the examples will sort of illustrate the information given up here, and I can click through them. So I have this first color wheel example, and then another example of some different colors with the same hue. And these captions here sort of tell me, describe what the example is meant to be showing. So this is the first page, the first learn page for Hue, but there are multiple for each term. So I can see that down here, there is this navigation bar. I can click next, and that will take me to the second learn page. So here I have this page, more information, and then I've got more examples with captions. And in these examples, so I have this one and this one, we can see that there's the description, and then there's also a caption to tell you where this media is from, if it's from the photograph or a screenshot from a movie, or in this case some album cover art or a painting or something. It will describe that. All right, so keep it moving onto the next learn page. Another brief description of a concept, and then some examples to click through so that you can sort of see it illustrated. And now that I've clicked through all of the learn pages, this button down here is, instead of pointing me next, it's going to point me to the quiz. So this little navigation bar at the bottom, this button, if a user just wants to sort of do everything in order, they can just continue to click that button through. All right, so now I'm on the quiz. You can see that right there. And now we can see that we actually cannot skip ahead here as we could on the previous pages, and we won't be able to move on until we answer this question correctly. So, all right, let's look at the question. Select the pure hues that represent the colors in the following image. Looking at these options, you can see in this one, the blue is not quite right. In this one, the red is not quite right. And then in this one, these two colors are pretty well represented. For the purpose of illustration, though, I'll select a incorrect answer. So maybe I'll select this one. And now that we've selected an option, we can submit, and we get some feedback. So the feedback tells me that there are no red hues in this image, and the red color sort of tells me that this was an incorrect answer. And I can see that I have a retry button here. So if I go ahead and click retry, that'll reset this question. And now I can select the correct answer and submit. And now I get some green feedback telling me that this was correct and explaining why this was the correct answer. So now that I've correctly answered the question, I can continue on. And I'm just going to move through these quiz questions and content quickly. There's quite a lot of content here, so I'm just going to click through it. Feel free to pause if you want to read. So now we're on the shade quiz. So at this point, I want to call attention to a couple of things. So now that we've completed the 3 questions on the shade quiz, there are also 3 in hue, and for each term, the quiz questions will have 3. Instead of, saying next, as it did before, this is taking me to tint, which is the next term. So this button will just continue to move the user through all of the content. Another thing that I want to call attention to is that these check marks, as I'm completing quizzes, are filling in. So here, if I click over to tint, now shade has a filled in check mark telling me that I've completed all of the content for shade. And in fact, if I go to the home page here, I see that hue and shade also have a filled in check mark. Tint, tone, and so on are still unchecked because we have not completed that content yet. And in fact, if I wanted to maybe log out and then log back in as an existing user, I can see that these check marks are still checked, and that would tell me that, if I'm returning, that I should probably just start at tint because that is where I left off. So I'll go to tint learn, and now I'm again just gonna move through all of this content quickly. All right, so now we're on tone. Sometimes this button is a bit glitchy. Highest value. All right, so now I've completed all of the content for the different terms, and that takes me to the final quiz. So this final quiz, we have 10 questions. Note again that you cannot move through them until you answer it correctly. And these questions are going to be, a bit more of a mix of different concepts. So, let's see. Button is glitching again. I don't know why it's doing that. There we go. All right, and so this is the last final quiz question. Now that we've answered that, we can see here we have a button that will just return us to home. Because I made the choice that you have to correctly answer a question in order to move through the quiz, there won't really be a final score, just because by the end of the quiz everyone should have answered everything correctly. All right, so that will just take us home, and then we can see that all of our cards here have been checked off, indicating that we have completed all of the content. So that was Colorpedia, and I hope that you learned something about color theory.